in November '52. Everyone was stunned and very pleased at the different kind of role it was for you. As you were indicating earlier today, the brio and allegro dancing that you were doing so wonderfully, so often. Here you had an adagio, you had a mysterious role, and it was a new aspect of you that many of us always knew was there, but Balanchine suddenly used that.
But you have to think that it's pretty amazing, Francis, that he had the ability to do that, not only with me, but with everyone, with Tanny, Diana, you know, Patty. He would bring out the best in each one of us. And as you say, find something that perhaps other people hadn't seen. And suddenly to do this perfectly beautiful adagio. And as I watched Judy and Peter today, I realized such magic. And George was creating magic. You know, I retired, I came back, and I saw a Hindemith piece that he was working on, and I said to myself, I thought everything had been done. Everything exciting and poetic has been done, and he's still doing more. He's still finding in the human anatomy something new, a way of using music, a way of bringing out the best, and this is what he was doing, and this is what he did. I mean, look, you know, the lyricism of it, and yet it was a sylph.
So, going back to the Edinburgh Festival in '52, when you were there with the company and having a big success, and you all went to the tattoo, was there a moment in that time when he made any indication about what he wanted to try to do with this piece? No, as usual.
Francis, you know he never talked. You know that very well. I mean, you above all know it, having written the book. But we sat there. We were the honored guests, and I think George was probably next to me or close by. We were in the front row. And in that beautiful castle up on that hill, when the bagpipes started, and the portals slowly opened, and they came out one after another, the Klansmen. It was just so beautiful and so mystical. And before I knew it, we arrived back in America, and George started working on Scotch Symphony. And this was an inspiration for him, I assume, to have seen that. And
well, another thing that was wonderful for us who didn't know it, we hadn't seen La Sylphide, you know, the big ballet, the romantic ballet in New York. And the vision of this mysterious creature, we all know from Fokine something about sylphs, but the inaccessibility, the remoteness of this creature who comes to bewitch and with such lovely calm take this man, and the man, the way he follows her, had a wonderful power that we weren't, Balanchine, as you say, could take all of the apparatus of the romantic ballet and put it in a little pill, a capsule
and in just one gesture.
And just in one gesture. When she's in back of him and she takes his arms, when she's really in control. Right. But then when they link the arms, you see that he's in it too with her. It's such a lovely thing that without any words.
But you know, it's also so very interesting just to mention the technical part of it. When I, later on in the rehearsal, as we were rehearsing, I've never taught Scotch Symphony before today, and it was a revelation to me to see it, because I realized how important every gesture, how important every non-wrist or flicking is. This takes away from the whole mood and the drama of it. It's very dramatic. And it must stay so, and it must say, what Saint-Exupéry says, is not, perfection is finally attained, not when there is nothing more to add, but when there is nothing more to take away. And this is so important.
Did he talk to you, did he mention the lithographs, the romantic ballet lithographs, the Chalon lithographs?
No. He didn't like looking at lithographs.
No. And after all, there's that other ballet, Pas de Quatre, right?
Right.
Which everybody knew something about.
Right.
And this has aspects of that in it.
Well, we have to guard against that.
We have to guard against that attitude.
Yes, we're a sylph, but we're not that old-fashioned. We are a streamlined Balanchine sylph. A beautiful creation, a magical creation, very poetic. I mean, later on, my great friend Margot Fontaine was quoted as saying, "Oh, Balanchine is so technical," and I just, she was a very dear friend, but I resented this statement because I know, and I saw it today, and frankly, when they did exactly what he had told me, and I told them, and it was done, it's magic. I had never thought of the sylph as being a coquettish creature, never.
Right.
I mean, that's the last, have you ever thought of a sylph as being, even in La Sylphide,
she's very serious.
Yes.
Well, there are moments when she's playful.
Oh,
There are
yes.
moments when she's
There are
playful,
moments
but
in
it's
that.
a different character.
It's a different character.
As Frances was saying, and I felt the same, we didn't really know that much about dance history, and we didn't know La Sylphide at the time, and I just wondered if Balanchine talked about sylphs.
No.
He demonstrated movements.
Well, he
right?
knew that I had danced Les Sylphides in the Ballet Russe when I was in my teens. But all he did was demonstrate what he wanted. I stood in back of him. He never talked about it. Same thing I remember with Swan Lake when all the shoulders. Remember today I was talking to Judy about leading with the shoulder, how important it is. And George, like in the Swan Lake, her variation, da-da, it's all shoulders. And I stood in back of him and I thought, now wait a minute, why can't I look like that, But he didn't like to talk about it. He demonstrated, so we knew exactly what he wanted. You can't dance Scotch Symphony the same way you would dance, for instance, Four Temperaments. It's completely different. I mean, it's a completely different feeling.
How would you prepare mentally to dance a lyrical role?
I just looked at what he wanted me to do, that's all.
Yeah.
And the minute I did this arm, and I bent, and I put my head a certain way, and I looked, then that's all. I didn't have to prepare any more than that.
Did he talk about being light on your feet?
No, he showed me how to run.
Yeah.
Just the same way I showed Judy. But we did this every day.
Yeah.
Every day we were running. We'd take the lines, and we ran, and we learned how to run, not with our knees bent, with our legs stretched out. And Judy, of all people, with her beautiful feet, you can see each time that beautiful foot coming out, and light as a feather. That's what's important. We were going on a cruise, my husband and I, in Greece, and so we took a short chorus, and I suddenly realized, my heavens, there's exactly what George has been talking about. This reaching up with your cheek as if somebody's going to kiss you on the cheek. He didn't say, pull the left solar, da-da-da-da. He just said, that's all. That's all he had to say. And if you think about it all the time, the audience is going to see you. The light is going to catch you at the best. Did you see her suddenly today?
That's it.
I mean, the beauty. She looked like $1 million movie star.
Yes, she was lovely.
Not that she isn't beautiful, but she became, as George said, you take a beautiful girl and she becomes more beautiful. You see, and this is what I saw, and the statue of David, for instance, that you see, there he is. He's not like this. He's like this. And it's not this. That's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. And I've seen some, as if you're putting, that's wrong. He said it right years and years ago and told us, and now I've seen old movies, for instance, of Tanny, and there it is. She's doing that, just the way he said. She's also presenting her foot, exactly what I was talking to Judy about today, how a lady steps on point, and I saw Tanny doing that in Symphony in C.
There's a lovely, how shall I say, a sweet seriousness about it, which you conveyed to Judy today, I think, so wonderfully, and which she got. It's not a winsome role.
No.
It's not a temptress role.
No.
Is it?
No. Temptress is Prodigal Son.
That's right.
That's also different. Or even Basic La Fée.
That's
There's
right.
a great deal of that in the gypsy part. But No, this is not a temptress. This is a sylph. This is who lives in the air.
An otherworldly creature.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So,
I'd like to say one thing, although we didn't see it today because she's thrown by the men, but when you did it, you were really thrown.
yeah.
And for some reason, I know Balanchine himself changed it, at least that's what I've been told, but now he places the girl on the man's chest, and it's such a different...
Because he's not really catching.
No.
The man is important.
Obviously,
because
sure.
he has to catch her against
Yeah.
his chest. You know.
But reviewers wrote about the sylph on wires in the previous century and so on, that this was a kind of a
That's
modern...
what he's reflecting on.
Yeah.
That's what the
But
gesture
that, we
is.
don't see that today. You once said also that Bourrée Fantasque, the second movement, had a little bit of this same
Well,
feeling.
Bourrée Fantasque, again, was a surprise to me that he put me in the second movement.
Definitely, yeah.
And again, he
Very
saw
lyrical and-
something. But what was really interesting, in spite of my great, great success, was the Firebird, and I know that. He wanted me to do Swan Lake very much. In fact, he did for me my part in Swan Lake when I danced with Ballet Theatre as a guest. When we were only doing 4
1950.
performances
That's
a
right.
year, and so I went with Ballet Theatre, and I danced with Yuskevich, and Eric Brun was the prince's friend, of all things.
Oh, my dear.
And George, we were out in Chicago, and he showed everything to me. George knew the classics so beautifully. I mean, did you ever see him coach Giselle?
No,
I mean, you sit there and cry. It's so beautiful.
I can imagine.
So, you know, here was a man well steeped in the classics and brought that to us. We would teach, when I would teach class, I would teach Giselle. I would teach Swan Lake because this was how he taught us.
He had so much history, there's no
Yes.
doubt. I saw him coaching pantomime scenes later in the company. He didn't do it too much in the beginning, and suddenly you thought, well, where did all of this come from? But he had it.
What, did you ever
He
see
had it
him
all.
do his character dancing? How wonderful it was.
Yeah.
See all this? That's George.
Yeah.
Here, you know, there you are. And he was wonderful. You know, he never asked us to do anything that was uncomfortable. Never, never. If, like today, I suddenly thought, this has to be in a figure 8.
That's
When-
fascinating. Mhm.
And
also-
suddenly, the two of them just brightened up because now it made a reason.
Sure.
It made it easy to do, whereas before I thought, why is that looking so clumsy?
I think when you look at the pas de deux also, more than once, you begin to realize how difficult some of those
Oh, very.
catches are. I mean, he catches with one hand, and
Right.
she's on one toe.
Right.
But if they do
Right.
it beautifully, as they did, in other words,
Yeah.
mask the difficulties. But
Yeah.
if you analyze it, there are lots of catches with one hand.
One hand, and when
in
she
the
has
middle
to
of a
start all
turn.
by herself.
Yeah.
And then he comes by,
Oh,
he's
yes.
not even near her.
Right.
Suddenly, there he is,
There he is. He has to be
you
there.
know, yeah.
Oh, it's quite a tour de force.
Yes,
Only it
yeah.
doesn't look it, sort of.
George would tell me what to do, he would choreograph, and I would go home and think about it. I'd get in front of my own mirror in my bedroom, and I would practice all of these. I used to, years later in life, said, I'm going to go practice my mannerisms. Well, that was just practice what he wanted me to do, because I knew it was right. And I
it
knew
takes time
what
to
the-
assimilate it. You can't just
Well,
necessarily pick it
and
up
you
in
don't
an
go
instant.
out, you don't leave the studio and forget all about it. That's what's important. You live with it. You have tunnel vision. You have to.
Oh, I think you brought out the sheer, I think the impression was the sheer beauty of the arms and so on, after you finished
Well, how
coaching.
important. How
Yeah.
important. Because he did this. He would show hands like almost as if it had been sculpted. And he did say, as if you're having a cup of tea.
Mm-hmm.
See, there's a difference when she puts her hands here than this
Sure.
or this. He was such a musician. How this was going to take up
Yes,
the
filling
music.
out the phrase is
Yes,
really
yeah.
amazing.
You can't fill it out like this.
Yeah.
You have to fill it out like this. And we practice, you know. Well, it's beautiful. Peter has a
Gift for it.
wonderful gift for that.
I
You
can
can
see it.
look, and suddenly he has exactly the feeling that it should have.
Sure. I had to pick it up.
Yeah.
Right away I saw it.
Yeah, which is interesting. Very interesting.
Well, these are all partnering jobs that you've been working on here, really.
Yeah.
And that's another interesting thing about it, in terms of Balanchine's work. He himself, as a partner, could show and do, could he not?
Yes. But that's why he never had to say anything, because he indicated, he wasn't on point, of course, but he indicated and he showed and he talked about all of these things that I've been talking about. And eventually, when you really get it into your body, this way of moving, it's so much easier than trying to do everything like this. That's not a matter of that. It's a matter of knowing how to do it. And he told us how to do it. Everything, told us exactly how to do it, and it becomes easier. The body is in exactly the right place, and it becomes easy to do, you know? And it's so logical, you don't want to do anything else. How can you go into serenade and want to do da 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 da, you know?
Yeah.
Da, you're looking away, da da. It is so beautiful, and that you don't want to do anything else. And it becomes easy because that's the way he prepared for it, with his incredible knowledge of the human body. And he had never been on point. How did he know to make it?
All the women said he understood point.
He understood it, and it was logical, and he made it easier for us. And when I saw, for instance, today, when Judy and Peter looked uncomfortable, once they started doing the right way, it became easy, and it became beautiful, and it became very much the way Balanchine wanted it. You could see it. I mean, when they did that, what I call the figure eight,
Yeah,
that's what
lovely.
the way he just
lovely.
suddenly it became so beautiful, flowing,
Windswept, sort of.
flowing,
Yeah.
beautiful. That's all there. All of that running and walking that I was talking to Judy about, she has to capitalize on that because she's got the feet and legs to do it. Why take away from this? It's all there. The arches are ready. The strength in the legs and feet are ready. Now do it. The minute she did this without anything else, without the music, she became a sylph.
Mm. Oh, she did it beautifully.
You see? And this is what he wanted us to do. And this is what people used to say, Maria, it's like you're not touching the floor, you know, when you come in. That's because of this. And that's from the Mariinsky. That I know very well. But this George insisted upon. But then you go on from there, and all of this is Balanchine.